what should have been? Are you just preparing land for the sake of preparing land? Secondly, um, how come that was done in 2019? This is 2023. It's just now. How many years after is this committee in the House of Reps just looking at this matter? How did it come up? Why was it under the wraps or the sheets all this while? Because for you to have approved that some amount of money, by now I expect this same oversight committee to have gone for inspection. You can't be inspecting 5 years after the fact has been done. How much area was covered? For 18 billion, I would expect that maybe half of Nigeria was being cleared. I mean,
Amazon jungle.
yes, I mean, this is really, really alarming. These
Now,
questions are coming way, way, it's almost medicine after death.
Now, consider the fact that this came under the tenure of the former Minister of Agriculture, who was for in one of those rare occurrences actually fired from the job for gross underperformance. So
Right.
wondering if it's just about the when you talk about the time the time lag, that's the word
Right.
I'm looking for. That does seem to be a
I'm,
characteristic.
I'm even looking at it differently. The former SGF, Babachir Lawal, he was also indicted in a similar grass cutting scandal for
Right.
544, I think, million or billion naira at that time. Then he even saw him out of office. Now we hear again another grass cutting scandal, 18 billion naira. What is going on with grass cutting in billions?
Well, the truth is here, the people who are clearly, clearly out of line is the National Assembly. And there is completely zero sense of urgency.
And that's what I wanted to go back
Mm.
to. Thank you very much. And that's the question of the characteristic of this particular National Assembly, because we've seen a number of these time lag issues coming up whenever we think about, even things like um, looking into the EFC, former acting EFCC chairman, and other things like that. What would you say about
Yes,
that?
their oversight duty, zero sense of urgency to tackling corruption. And two, they're not doing their jobs, they're sleeping. And the funny thing is that the executive, of which the Minister of Agriculture is in this case, have been left to govern without any check. This is the same case in practically every other ministry, department, and agency that we have. I think Nigerians should begin to put their reps and senators under check or give them some kind of heat because they cannot continue earning money and then we start digging up dead bodies many years after worms and co have taken off on them and start wasting our time.
This is really giving me some making advice right now.
All right, let's keep it going now to the Guardian newspaper. We go. Insecurity. Worries over growing number of police escorts attached to VIPs. I just take the first paragraph from this article. Nigerians have expressed concerns over the number of orderlies and escorts attached to private businessmen, political appointees, actresses, and even their children for security protection at the expense of the citizens. The writer in this article is saying at traffic bottlenecks, these officers armed with AK-47 rifles will slap bonnets of nearby cars, dishing orders to them, move, clear, give way, because you have kids of the political class in the vehicle. What is going on, Kule?
It didn't start today actually. So it's at some point it became it looked like it was a normal thing to do. You have a little bit of money in your pockets, or a senior police officer is your friend or a member of your family, or you are a public office holder, and then the next thing, to show that you have arrived, you have a retinue of security men around you. You have the police, you have the DSS, you have all sorts. You have the
Some have soldiers.
NCDC people are so. Imagine one individual have maybe like a
A
15
battalion.
policemen, another 15 from DSS, and then an accountable number from the NSDC,
NSCDC.
NSCDC. Thank you. So it's meanwhile we say we are 200 million people,
How many police
and
officers
we
do you
have
have?
350,000 on record.
Police
Or,
officers.
or rather, let me use the one that was quoted by is a one-time Inspector General of the Police. We had 400,000 policemen and women. Yeah. And out of that 400,000, according to IGP Okiro in his time, he said 150,000 of them were doing handbag services, were attached to VIPs. United Nations says that one policeman to 400, I think, 400 citizens. If we look at 200 million to 350,000, let's do the maths. So out of that 350,000, we have also taken out 150 to individuals. So it remains 250,000. So that means we have about just one policeman to about what's that number? It's just excuse my
Now,
mind.
there
So
if
the
you look at it,
UN ratio, recommended ratio is one policeman to every 450
is it
citizens.
400? I think
450 citizens.
450 citizens.
Now,
So-
going by
so-
the last statistics that we've seen in, well, that I've seen in 2018, we had the police ratio of one officer to every 648 Nigerians back in 2018. Who knows what happened in
So
2022?
let's even keep it at that number. That's what it is even today. So you can see that we have a long way to go. Meanwhile, the things that police is actually set up for to be done are the things we complain about every day. You listen to radio, you read newspapers. There is one armed robbery here. There is one whatever there. Traffic robbery happens every day. The policemen are missing on the road to help to solve this problem.
Now, there are some communities who have complained that they don't even have a police post in their community, yet we have one politician or one Nigerian with about 10 police officers
Victor,
escorting him. Should we take back some of these officers from the VIPs?
Victor, the places that have police posts and police stations, are they properly manned? Don't let's even go to the ones that don't have yet. We have people, places in this country that is a community that build and donates buildings to the police. That okay, this we want to have a police station in our town, in our village. We have built it. Come and put men inside. We have them. So we know the right things to do. This is one of the things that gives the arguments to people like me who believe that central policing is not ideal for our country. We cannot. The man who is sitting at the top in Abuja is only seeing I have 450,000 people. As far as it's concerned, 450,000 is more than enough.
Now,
But at the bottom, the man at the bottom who should tell him that, Oga, I need 50 people here, not 10. They can't.
Luckily, so you've been on this show before previously many times, advocated for state policing. What would you say? Let's even just talk about what's the reality on the ground. Is this administration, is the government being dragged towards state police, whether they like it or not? We've already seen the real, what's the word I'm looking for? Surgeons. I know it's not a resurgence, but surging in forms of regional security operations and state security operations as well.
So you see, the thing is, naturally, things will start to go that way. And I hope that if and when it starts to, that it does not spiral out of control. You know, we have state governors who are saying that they want to buy AK-47s and hand it over to
Their special.
their
Their
special
guards.
their
Volunteer
neighborhood
guards.
volunteer guards. Now we have all sorts people that you don't know that they have not done background check on, who have not gone through any training, so you want to hand guns over to those people. The ones
Quickly,
that have
before
gone
we
through
move
training
from
that you
this.
hand guns to, we see what they do with the guns.
very quickly, before we move from this, how easy is it for I and Shokbe to get police orderlies?
Well, if you have the amount of money.
Victor, go to the police station and go and test it. That's what I always say, so that you can see how easy it is to get one.
No, because I mean, people now have a lot of these police
That's what-
officers escorting them
that's
here
what-
in Lagos, and these police officers are now drivers.
That's what I'm
Can
saying.
I
That
add
go
that?
to the police station, go
Wow,
and test it.
Driver is a great one. Food
Yes,
carriers.
can I add this?
Shoe
It
shiners.
seems as if security is only for the wealthy now, because it's on clear record that the police make money when they make provisions for people who can pay for them. One. Two, like I said, these are the factors that lead to us believing that government is complicit with the insecurity in this country, because you clearly don't have sufficiency in manpower where regards the military and police, and yet you frustrate the state police inclusion. These are clear factors, because government cannot at this point in time contain the insecurity.
Let's move on.
Yeah, so let's do so. We'll take this next story in from the leadership. Okay, so there was a picture that surfaced on social media that had a lot of reactions. People asking questions, people coming up with theories. As we saw the likes of Peter Obi, Nyesom Wike, Donald Duke, all standing together, looking quite charming. Now, from the leadership, we have this article: Wike meets Obi and PDP governors and others in Rivers. I'm bringing this to the table. Let's talk about this.
Mm.
Devo, let's start with you.
Well, you see, it's all politics at the end of the day. That picture, as some would call it, photo ops, really caused some level of vibration within the country, and many had been much to say. Some were saying, well, from the PDP point of view, what is Wike doing? What is he really doing? His house seems to become a mecca of sorts, not just for his own party, but more or less other parties. Has he been dining with the enemy? Really, some are saying, should he not be disciplined for anti-party activities?
Right.
That's also on the heels that you know that there's been some hiccup between him and the who he refers to as a candidate, that's Atiku, that they've not been able to resolve their or reconcile the embroiler since the primaries took place. And some have said that, well, if they think they can walk around or work around Wike, that like he said, that he hasn't even started. Now, with the presence of Peter Obi in the picture, some have said, what is he really doing? Is he still hobnobbing with his old folks, or he hasn't been able to get rid of them? Some are also saying that, well, he needs structure. He needs as much help as he can get. Well, the truth is this: politicians will be politicians. I think Nigerians are missing the point when they see politicians interacting with themselves. Our duty is to ensure that these politicians work in our interest. And there's not much you can do. As you can see, at the start of we've not even started the campaign yet. And there's so many views and perspectives as to who is there, who is there. Alliances will be formed because remember, we've always said this, don't forget that politics is not about logic, it's about numbers and consensus. And what you are seeing is politicians trying to build the required consensus to be able to give them the numbers to be able to win an election.
Okay, so quickly, my contribution to that is that the lesson in that for all of us is to see that at the end of the day, all these people are friends. For those of us who have, because of our loyalties to people, to parties, we have severed relationships. We have turned to what word would I use that is radio friendly? We have turned to
Mortal enemies.
yeah, to enemies, and because of these people, you can see at the end of the day that people you have become enemies on their behalf. That they still get together, whether they like it or not. Like Devo said, and hobnob. So I think that we should learn from that. That even when we have differences, we should be able to agree to disagree and disagree to agree, and still maintain good relationships.
Isn't Wike doing too much if you ask? Anti-party activities. He even donated a mansion to former governor of Rivers State, Peter Odili, on his 74th birthday 2 days ago. Perhaps why some of those people went to visit in that state, and the story goes on and on. But we'll just take some messages.
Odili is Wike's godfather.
Let's go over to YouTube where we are Smooth 91 FM. Ataba Mail says, okay, so hello, what is your panel's recommended ratio for police to citizens in Nigeria? It's not our recommended ratio. We're talking about the United Nations recommended ratio of 1 officer to every 450 citizens.
Well, on WhatsApp, Mr. C is saying, you guys should understand that the strand of grass that grows here in Nigeria is difficult to cut. Also, there might have been other costs such as labor, equipment, security, etc. The only question is, was the grass actually cut?
Well, that guy sounds like he was a beneficiary of the contract.
Okay, more messages quickly. We have this one here. It says,
D from Alausa says, Devo, it's never too late to investigate a crime. It takes time to implement a budget, monitor implementation, investigate variances, identify fraudulent practices, and commence active fraud investigations. Command the committee instead of then asking for more accountability.
Nero Cello is in, says clearing bush with 18 billion naira is just one of the many bad habits of bad leaders. Now you know why a frugal leader said we need to cut cost of governance. Our police officers are overstretched and has been converted to private use. Shego is saying
Well, with Mr.
Ryan Dinga's
Yes,
announcement.
I'm seeing that. Okay, we move on because we're talking about Nigeria here. Godwin from Bagada says, with regards to the police, the federal government should recruit more policemen, equip them, and dispatch them to states, towns, and villages. That's the solution for now.
And Damini Keja, for every new IGP, there is a new ban on escort because the number of policemen aren't enough. Yet someone is approving these policemen for escort duty.
Hmm, interesting. And Dr. Davis from Ikoyi says, why can't state police like
Amatekun.
Amotekun be, etc., be assigned to people within their states? Police orderlies should be withdrawn from them, but only assigned to the various federal appointees.
Clearing the bush is also for security purposes so that bandits and terrorists can't hide in them.
Yeah, for
Mr.
real.
C sends that again.
For real.
But let's go to this next article from the Vanguard newspaper. Adamu says federal government can borrow till eternity.
Oh, wow.
Atiku, Labour Party, and others says it will lead to disaster. Kule, what do you think?
This the statement in itself, if we look at it, um, may not be entirely wrong.
To
Yeah.
borrow till eternity?
Yes. But okay, so if you borrow till eternity, what are you spending the borrowings on? So let me give a classic example. So if I own a refinery today and I'm owing bank XYZ a 1 billion naira, and I go to bank ABC or the same bank XYZ again, I say I want to borrow another billion because I want to build another one. The chances that bank XYZ will give me another billion is higher because I have something on ground that I can say that from the proceed of this, I can pay back your money. Yeah. But if I don't have any to show, I don't have any source of income, and I go to borrow money, which bank will look at me, will give me a second look,
In the
right?
context of
In
Nigeria.
the context
now.
of Nigeria. So exactly. So in the context of governance, so if you have a government like Nigeria, for example,
Good.
if we say what is our income like with respect to what we want to expend the money we are borrowing on, do we have a source that can service that debt? Today we know that we are spending all our income in budget in debt servicing, as evident with NNPC, who is our main cash cow, not having contributed anything to the federal allocation account this year. At least that's documented. So when you look at it from that perspective, I think that this is not the right thing for somebody at this level of governance in Nigeria to come on air and say, because it will be misinterpreted to mean we can do anything that we like, and then will cause problem for people who are going to succeed us sometime in the future. It is bad enough that people in high positions in this country are generally reckless with their utterances,
Yes.
and this is an example of it. Okay, so at this time where we are in Nigeria today, people should be subtle in the way they make pronouncements, especially when it comes to our economy, our security, and several other things that are concerned that everybody is concerned
Now,
about.
if we were generating as much revenue, will we be borrowing funds to pay salaries?
Everybody borrows money, whether you make money or not.
Yes, but the argument here is not even about borrowing because we understand what borrowing means. However, Adamu, who is the chairman of APC,
National chairman of the
National
APC.
APC, apart from this administration, practically every administration in Nigeria has no moral right to argue the fact about borrowing because none of them have shown accountability for the billions that Nigeria has been borrowing and the commensurate infrastructure or commensurate benefit to the country. Please, after we're just talking about the National Assembly, talking about 5 years ago and how money was wasted. How can they still be talking about currently with ways and means they borrowed up to 20 trillion? Can you show me where that money went to? The 450 billion that has gone into the military, are we not suffering more insecurity than ever before? The billions that were used for subsidy, have Nigeria consumed all of that? This government is in no position to be defending borrowing.
If you have a bucket that is leaking and you want to fetch water, what's the first thing you do? You block the hole in your bucket before water can stay in it. You cannot take a leaking bucket to the tap and hope to get water home. And
We've borrowed to fight security in Nigeria. We've borrowed for infrastructure, but in the last 7 years, I can't exactly point to
so
why
people
we're
will
borrowing all this money.
people will point to certain things.
Like?
We'll say Lagos Ibadan Expressway, Second Niger Bridge, Lagos Ibadan train. Can we say that those things are commensurate with the amounts of money we've had that we borrowed or we've spent or we cannot account for? The accountant general is being tried or is being sent back home after being indicted over the misappropriation of 167 billion. I hope I'm correct.
Yeah.
We just read now that 2 days ago, NSITF, the money that all employers in Nigeria contribute 2% of the total salary payout of the employees. 17 billion. Is it 17 billion?
Yes.
That might hurt the documents. So when you hear of all these wastages, you are asking yourself, so if I stop all these wastages, would I need to borrow? Which makes sense. But you see, the thing about politics, international politics and economy is that why do you need to spend your own money to do things when you can get free money to do it? Okay. So, but we in Africa, generally, and Nigeria in particular, that we are so reckless about these things because there is no accountability and there's no consequence for these things.
Thank you.
Okay, Daily Post News now. ASUU meeting with federal government ends in deadlock. Strike to continue. Yes, yesterday, a day which could have been filled with a new hope, filled once again with just more wrangling. Devo, let's hear from you.
Dashed hope. ASUU once again at deadlock with the federal government, and with a little drama, because yesterday's meeting didn't just end in no way forward, but they walked out of the meeting angrily. ASUU said that they met again with the Professor Nimi Briggs negotiation team, who came to the table without any new offer. They simply just told them that, well, you guys should resume work, that all your concerns can be captured in the 2023 budget next year. And ASUU was like, there's no way forward here. Now, you see, the problem here is this, like I've always said, ASUU extended their strike recently by another 1 month, which takes it to about going to 200 days now since they started this strike Valentine's
27.
Day this year. And it is clear by this time, because this is not new. We've been on this same position almost practically on a yearly basis, that this government, this administration, is clearly not going to address the gaps that ASUU is bringing up. Remember, ASUU is not just representing themselves. SANU is on strike. Also,
NASU.
the NASU is on strike, and the senior staff of the academic institutions are also on strike. Now, what they've said is, at this point, since the federal government has said in some clear terms that they don't have the funding, neither will they borrow. You see here, in this instance, they said they were not going to borrow for education. And we've seen that there's no sense of urgency for matters of national importance or security where education is concerned, as some would say, maybe because their own children are not part and parcel of the same system. Now, it's the same government that earmarked 4 trillion for subsidy. So let's weigh it. The 200 minimum billion that ASUU is asking for to go back to school, was the 4 trillion justified? The same government has earmarked 450 billion almost on a yearly basis for the military to tackle insurgency. Can we say that it's justified? We've also had cases of corruption, like the accountant general. Also, ways and means. Ways and means is when the federal government prints money, and it's not meant to do beyond 10% of its last year earnings, which is about 4 trillion. So thereby, they shouldn't have printed beyond 4 billion. Here, they've gone to print 20 trillion, not knowing how it's going to be replaced. And yet, when you ask how was the money spent, they can't create or even go one way or the other to be able to address ASUU. By now, solution way forward. I thought the federal government would have started looking at discussing autonomy, if not full autonomy for universities, partial autonomy.
But if we look at this, right, and if we look at the history of the agreements
Mm.
that the ASUU and the federal government have signed from 2009 to 2007 to 2001 to 1992 and go so on and so 1998 and so on and so forth, part of the agreements that they had already signed and tried to renegotiate with the federal government was this issue of autonomy as well. Unfortunately, we can't spend too much time on this, but basically, at this rate, in your opinion, is this finally the end of the road where we see that ASUU has, with their storied history of being postponed, have they finally in your opinion, do you think this is the time where we're going to see ASUU actually keep to their stance and wait until things are implemented before going back to the lecture halls?
Well, I think the ASU-led committee is actually committed to seeing this through. So, which means this will tarry till election time for the next government. However, we've also advised that there's no point for any reason going back to school if they've not been able to resolve this. Get it done once and for all. Like I said, the federal government has options. If you don't have the money, there are other people's money. If you don't have the money in this same situation, you don't have to borrow, but share the ownership, liberalize the tertiary education sector so that others can bring in funding.
B in Lekki is saying this government will go down as the worst in history. Period. God bless Nigeria.
Well, Chris from Aja, or Six from Aja, says Nigeria's current problem is embezzlement. Both the politicians, public officers, including auditors, are embezzling the national wealth. Even if you borrow 100 trillion naira to build infrastructure, it will be embezzled. We need a frugal leader to cut these revenue leakages.
Anthony Nikeja is saying the fact that Nigerian governments haven't considered implementing state police is the reason why insecurity has become a big issue. It could get worse.
Okay, and Tolu from Lagos says, have you forgotten that a private company in the travel business was advertising a product/service for people traveling to the east with armed police escorts for a fee just some months back? Gosh.
Oh my God. We wrap up with this one. We took a message from me earlier, but we'll wrap up here. It says, this is not a case of misinterpretation. Nigerian politicians will say or do anything as long as it protects their access to power, including maligning their own family members. That's where we wrap things up for today on Freshly Pressed.
We do, but you can continue to just interact with our analysts, or you can find Lakunle at Lakunle70 on Twitter. And you know what? Keep it professional with Devo. Check out Devo Okorie on LinkedIn. That's all for Freshly Pressed. Coming up, it is going to be sports inside the locker room.
I'm going back to